What if Ahsoka brought Anakin back to the light on Malacore? Vader calls out to her, calling her name. She looks back and sees that she cut off a portion of Vader's mask, revealing a face that all too much resembled Anakin, except for his yellow eye. He calls her name again, except it isn't Vader's voice anymore, it's Anakin's. Ahsoka whispers his name, whispers Anakin, hesitating, not sure what to do, but she quickly makes up her mind. She tells him that she wouldn't leave him, not this time. They stood there, staring at each other for a moment, and she could see the turmoil going on inside of him. However, his expression hardens, and he tells her that then she would die. Ezra calls to her and tries to come to her, not wanting to leave her behind, but she pushed him back, preventing him from getting inside again before the doors closed. The duel between her and Vader begins anew, with them now being sealed inside the crumbling temple. Ahsoka might have been able to defeat him, but after hearing Anakin's voice, she couldn't bring herself to even try to kill him. Taking a moment to look around the crumbling temple, she realized that if they stayed here any longer, then they would both die. She tried to talk to him again, to convince him to leave with her, but he was steadfast and just continued on attacking. Ahsoka fell silent again, falling back into the rhythm of combat. She realized that the only way either of them was going to leave was if one of them died. So, not having the heart to kill the person who used to be her mentor and friend, someone as close to family that a Jedi could get. As Vader pushed forward, lightsaber aimed toward her, instead of easily blocking it, she deignited her lightsaber. Vader's visible eye widened, but either couldn't or didn't care to stop the thrust. His lightsaber went through her, and the pain made Ahsoka fall to her knees and drop her lone lightsabers. Vader went to his knees with her, keeping the lightsaber steady in her chest as he stared into her eyes, fear and confusion apparent even on the little face that was visible. Ahsoka used what strength she had and reached up and wrapped him in the best hug she could manage. She couldn't seem to form words, but she at least wanted to show some sort of affection to say goodbye. Vader, though, instantly deignited his own lightsaber, letting it fall to the floor, forgotten, as he pulled her close. Before he wanted nothing more than to kill her for refusing him. Now he could not only believe what he had done, but that she had allowed it. He frantically scoops her up in his arms and summons his TIE fighter. He carries her into the cockpit with him and uses its cannons to blow open the temple's door. He quickly flies out of the temple, barely making it before it imploded in on itself. Once he safely reaches space, he prepares his head to Mustafar, but stops himself. He realized that if he goes there, not only would Ahsoka be affected by the dark side of the Force, but Palpatine would learn of her. He needed a place to take her that wouldn't turn her in, that wouldn't harm or negatively affect her. The only place that came to his panicked mind was Alderaan. Senator Bellargon was suspected to be a rebel as well, so he could also have been working with Ahsoka. Without sparing another thought, he plots his course to Alderaan. It took longer than he would like to get there, but as soon as he did, clearance was quickly given and he landed smoothly in the palace. He worried that Senator Organa wouldn't be there, but was relieved to see him and his wife, Queen Breha, walk out of the palace side by side. He hurriedly gets out of the TIE fighter, cradling Ahsoka, and walks towards them. Senator Organa's face visibly tightens when he sees Ahsoka in his arms, but he doesn't say anything as he approaches him. Once he's mere feet away, he asks them, no, begged them to save her, that he would do anything. Senator Organa was the first to move, looking over to his wife before telling Vader to follow him. He's led to a medical facility where medical droids and human staff are, and though he doesn't want to, he allows them to take her from him. As he watches her being taken away, Senator Organa says that he can leave now. He firmly tells him that he wasn't going anywhere, not without Ahsoka. Ahsoka had told him that she wouldn't leave him. He was not only going to make sure she kept her promise, but he vowed to not leave her as well, especially when she was this helpless because of him. They both waited till someone came back and told them that she would be fine. That wasn't too serious since the wound was cauterized. She just needed to heal in the back tank and rest and be allowed to wake up naturally. They guided him to the room she was put in and he stayed there, only leaving the room when they took her out of the back tank, changed her medical gown and placed her on a bed. As soon as they let him back in, he returned to her side. As days passed though, he grew more and more anxious and scared as she showed no signs of waking up, and he was just managing to keep himself together. However, in the late afternoon of the 6th day, she stirred and opened her eyes. He was overjoyed and relieved, wanting to rush to her side but managed to hold back, not wanting to scare her or overcrowd her. Ahsoka was groggy, confused, and disorientated, having a hard time processing the room around her. However, when Vader came into focus, his suit still damaged from the duel, fear began to seep through her. If they are both alive, then he must have taken her to force whatever information he wanted from her, and possibly tried to turn her to the dark side. She tried to sit up to even move, but her body wouldn't listen, only managing to shift around. Vader quickly approached then, gently calling her name, trying to soothe and reassure her. This made Ahsoka still. Though it was distorted, it was the voice of Anakin again, the same one that had convinced her to stay in the temple in the first place. Giving up and trying to fight right now at the side, she looked up to his face and gasped. His exposed eye wasn't yellow, it was completely blue. He reached out his gloved hands and grasped her closest hand as he fell to his knees beside the bed. He apologized for almost killing her, for giving in to the Sith, to Palpatine, for everything that he had done and for every action that caused her harm, for not being there when she needed him. Ahsoka is in shock, but she quietly whispers to him, calling his name again, Anakin, and that she also was at fault for not being there when she needed her. The medical staff were alerted by now that she is awake, and they quickly shooed Anakin away so that they could check him to make sure Ahsoka was doing okay. Only when they were done did they allow Anakin to come back in. Senator Organa came with him, confusing Ahsoka, but she greeted him anyway and asked where she was. He informed her that she was on Alderaan, it being where Vader brought her. Ahsoka immediately asked if this was alright, if they were putting them or the planet at risk. Bill simply shook his head, assuring her that all was well. They kept both their presence as a secret, and though it didn't appear to be tracked, they sent Vader's TIE fighters to the other side of the galaxy. They had likely flown to the sun by now, which was what they were aiming for. He tells them both that the disappearance of Vader has been kept a secret, but there was already unease on Coruscant in the Imperial military. Bill then approaches Ahsoka, close enough that he can whisper without Anakin overhearing, and asks if she is truly alright, and asks what had happened to Vader to make him act so strange. Ahsoka gives a small smile, remembering that she hadn't told anyone, and whispers back, informing Bell that Vader was Anakin, that he had given to the dark side and joined the Sith, but was back to the light. He could tell by looking at his eye, as Sith eyes were yellow. Bell's surprise is visible on his face, but he sneaks a look at the damaged portion of Anakin's helmet before turning back to her. He strains and talks so Anakin can hear him, saying that they could talk more when she gets back on her feet again. However, before he can turn to leave, Ahsoka calls to him, asking if there was anything that he can do to help Anakin. Upon Bell's confused silence, Ahsoka goes on, stating that if Anakin was going to stay here, he needed to get out of that suit. It was too recognizable. Understanding dawned on Bell's face, and he nodded his head, ushering Anakin out of the room with him. Anakin only glanced back at her, his visible eye pleading, before disappearing from sight. Ahsoka sighs before getting comfortable, allowing herself to drift off to sleep again. Bell leads Anakin to another room where people come and remove as much of his suit as they could. He wants to protest, but understands why Ahsoka wants it gone, even if it was comfortable to him, and he fears that there is no better alternative. So he stays silent, allowing them to do their work. They quickly finish removing everything, all his cybernetic limbs and life support functions, and place him in a bacta tank. They occasionally take him out, both to do measurements and surgery to help heal his damaged flesh and organs. Ahsoka visits him frequently. She's shocked at first when she sees how bad his condition is, but resolves herself to do everything she can to help him. She also talks to Bell, filling him in on what had happened and what she knew. She also tells him that she wants to help rehabilitate Anakin. Bell hesitantly relents, and she promises to repay him for everything he is doing for Anakin and for believing in him. Bell asks what she would do if she was wrong, if Anakin wasn't redeemed. Ahsoka still is, having no one to think about it, but she already knew. She tells him that then she would kill him, to prevent him from becoming a monster. Ahsoka thinks hard on what she can do to prevent Anakin from returning to the dark side and how she can help him recover. She will need lightsabers, as she learned that Anakin left the lightsabers on Malacore, having completely forgotten about them, only concerned about Ahsoka's survival. She'll need to either retrieve them or get new ones so they could train and defend themselves. As days pass before planning and visiting Anakin, Ahsoka gets a chance encounter with Bell and Brielle's daughter, Leia. Seeing and talking with her made her suspicions grow, that she wasn't a child because she looked and acted like someone else she knew. But she kept it to herself. She would let them reveal their secret if they wanted, when the time was right. In the meantime, she enjoyed spending time with Leia, and it appeared that Leia grew attached to her as well. Coincidentally, this meant she spent time with Queen Brielle as well. They became close friends. It took nearly a month for Anakin to get his cybernetic limbs. In that time, he was buried at the back tank, so his health had improved drastically. When they put them on him, though, he was eager to get moving, not having been unable to do anything and helpless for such a long time. Ahsoka had made sure to visit him at least once a day, and though he couldn't talk, she spoke her thoughts or just stayed silent, keeping him company. She continued to visit him after his new limbs were attached to help him get used to him. He didn't need a respirator or any other life support functions, the medical staff had plenty of time to correct the damage and then allow his lungs to heal. So, though his voice was raspy and hoarse, he eagerly began talking with her. As he walked and moved his arms, they reminisced about shared memories and adventures that they had had. They both tweaked his prosthetic limbs to make them more fluid and comfortable, Ahsoka finding it hilarious when she intentionally sabotaged them, making them do the opposite of what he tried to do before actually fixing them. Soon he was up and going without any help and was functioning looking like a normal person. As soon as this happened, Ahsoka thanked Bell and Brio for everything and told them to contact her if they ever needed something. She had already told them they would be leaving as soon as possible so as to avoid any harm that could come to Alderaan. She had also asked them not to tell anyone that they were alive so as to keep them all safe. The Gons gave them the shuttle and they were surprised by the day to find R2-D2 waiting on board, who was also excited at seeing them. They thanked the Gons before they took off and flew into the Outer Rim. Ahsoka thought of a way to help Anakin both physically but also in the Force, making sure that he didn't return to the dark side. But before that, she stopped by a couple words to get supplies with credits Bell had given her. Once they were set, she guided them to a planet that she had come across in her travels that was strong in the Force. She landed the shuttle on Alderaan, and they set up a camp in the Corpse of Trees. They both rested for a few days, even though it was hard to sleep since the two suns made it constantly day. But Ahsoka got a reason to bring them here. She both wanted to rehabilitate Anakin physically and make sure that he was well tuned in the light side of the Force, to balance him like she herself found balance in the Force. Becoming something between a Sith and a Jedi, someone who uses the Force and one's emotions would benefit them, but to not let their emotions control them, a way to combine the best sides of both the Jedi and the Sith. Oroterra was perfect for this. Both sends its gravity was lower, making it easier to move, and that it had a powerful Force version that was neutral in the Force. After a few days of meditating together, basking in the Force, Ahsoka takes him to a clearing and gives him a stick that she had fashioned to resemble a lightsaber. He was confused, but Ahsoka reminded him that he had left the lightsabers on Malacore, and he was in no condition to go get them or get new ones for the time being. He sheepishly admits that he hadn't been thinking back then, before he assumes a stance in a Form 5 and tells her to get ready. Ahsoka simply shakes her head, instead of telling him that he would practice by himself. She wanted him to go through all the forms of lightsaber combat, to both refamiliarize himself with them but also make sure that his limbs could keep up. Anakin grunts something under his breath but complies. While he does that, Ahsoka gets 2 more sticks to make herself something to practice with as well. When she is finished, she joins him in going through all 6 forms they knew. Over the next several days, they trade off between meditating, physical activity, and practicing lightsaber forms, as well as resting when needed. Soon though, Anakin grows restless and challenges Ahsoka to a duel, which she accepts. They both quickly learn that fighting with sticks was way different from fighting with lightsabers. But because Ahsoka had trained the staff as well and knew how to handle the shock in her arms and hands, she easily won the first bout. Though Anakin's arms were metal, he felt the impact on the nubs of the limbs, and he still wasn't used to it or the limbs in general. They dueled a few more times after that, though Anakin only managed to win one before Ahsoka stopped them to rest. From then on, they had a few duels a day and they quickly honed their rusty skills. Anakin got comfortable with his new limbs and was glad they had been replaced. He thought that the ones given to him by Palpatine were the best that could be offered, but that was honestly wrong. Not only did he not have to wear a suit, but he could also move around and look like he used to. He realized that Palpatine was likely purposely weakening him so they couldn't overthrow him, something similar to how General Grievous' weakness were his damaged organs, which could have been replaced or at least healed. Anakin was thankful that they weren't, because he could only fear how strong that would have made General Grievous. With his time spent with Ahsoka on the planet, he now felt at peace and was starting to feel happy again, though there was still a great deal that he regretted, things that haunted his nightmares, namely the death of Padme and the destruction of the Jedi. Ahsoka urged him to tell her everything, to hopefully make it easier by talking about it, and he hesitantly did so. Ahsoka was shocked and horrified at things he had done, like hurt Padme and kill the younglings, but she listened, trying not to judge. During the times when he paused, she told him about her life in hiding, how she first lived in a farming community before it was occupied, how she trained some villagers to fight back. Then her doubts and fears leading her to run away to save a young, Force-sensitive girl. Her quest to get another pair of lightsabers that led her back to the moon, to the crystals in the blade of the Inquisitor that had come to the moon upon learning of her presence. How she killed the Inquisitor by exploding his lightsaber, then freed the people of the moon, leaving them Bell Organa's care, while she joined the Resistance in charge of the intelligence. How that had led her working with the crew of the Ghost and eventually Malacore. They eventually told each other everything that had happened while they were apart. Then Anakin asked something that he had been wondering about for a while. As they were sitting by a fire they had built to keep warm on a rare day when the suns were eclipsing, he asked why she hadn't blocked a strike on Malacore, why she had just given up and was going to let him kill her. Ahsoka stayed silent for a moment before responding, telling him that she didn't want to kill him or let him die, not after hearing him call her name. However, as the temple was collapsing and he was no longer listening to her, she figured that the only way for him to survive would be if he quickly killed her and escaped the temple. It was Anakin's turn to silently contemplate her words. After a short while, he tells her that he had warned her for refusing him, but never truly warned her dead. He just warned her by his side. Ahsoka smiled softly and chuckled, saying that it worked out in the end, so they shouldn't dwell on it too much. The past was the past. As long as they forgive and try to right their wrongs, then they should just move on and not let it control their lives. After that night, they decided together that they would help defeat Palpatine and overthrow the empire he had created. The next day, they packed up and left for the Tranquil planet in search of the rebellion. They quickly found Phoenix Hill as they hadn't moved from Adalon, where Ahsoka had met up with Kanan and Ezra before going to Malacore. She reunites with Kanan, Ezra, Hera, Rex, who are relieved to see her alive. Rex was also confused, albeit relieved to see Anakin. They agree on the way that they would keep the fact that he used to be Vader a secret, so they just said that he had been hiding and had found her. Ezra is a Staxis idol whom he had been learning lightsaber forms via holo recording from and begged Anakin to show him in person. They got him to calm down though, telling him that he would likely soon see. But first he had more important things to do. On the way, Anakin compiled everything he knew on a disc and he gave that to them, saying that they had stolen it from an Imperial officer. They didn't question him and eagerly dove into a treasure trove of information. Ahsoka and Anakin left them to work, promising to be back soon. Now they needed to get lightsabers. They meditated together, reaching out with the Force, feeling for anything that was calling to them. Ahsoka quickly found the distinct familiar color of previous kyber crystals she had purified, which were on Malacore, in her old lightsabers. Anakin, however, felt that his were somewhere else, a new kyber crystal that was calling to him. They left the next morning, saw him first by Malacore, which was still abandoned. Though they had to dig through the rubble, it was still relatively easy to retrieve Ahsoka's lightsabers, making it seem they were waiting for her. They then left Malacore, and Anakin took over the controls, guiding the ship to the crystal that was calling to him. To Ahsoka's surprise, they arrive over at Audra again. However, Anakin guides the ship to a different location, one nearest to the Force Vergence and the structure that housed it, than they had been before. He lands the ship in an unremarkable clearing within a day's walk of the Force Vergence. As soon as the ship is landed and powered off, he quickly walks down the ramp with Ahsoka following, having fixed the damage to her lightsabers on the way and ready to fight if needed. However, not that far away from the ship, Anakin kneels down and brushes through a clump of grass. When Australians he is holding a lightsaber of a design that Ahsoka had never seen before. It was damaged and heavily rusted, but they weren't here for the shell. Anakin was here for the kyber crystal housed inside, though he would need the parts to build a lightsaber. Ahsoka was surprised that it was this easy, but she figured she had a similar case, albeit she had to fight. Anakin brushes it off, but Ahsoka stops him before he ignites it, already having seen one person die by a lightsaber exploding. She tells him to extract the kyber crystal from the inside, and if necessary, purify it. He complies and she leaves him meditating while she looks around. She comes to the conclusion that this had once been a battleground as she comes across more lightsabers, all of which she collects hopefully scrounged parts from for Anakin's lightsaber. When she returns, the discarded remains of the lightsaber sit in front of Anakin while he holds a soft and glowing crystal. Ahsoka dumps all the lightsabers she had collected on top of the discarded lightsaber, and he scoffs, jokingly asks if she wants him to extract all the kyber crystals. Ahsoka gently punches his shoulder and tells him to now build his lightsaber, unless he wants to find another way. Anakin just shakes his head, smiling, before he gets to work sorting and dismantling the lightsabers. Ahsoka helps with only removing the kyber crystals from the lightsabers and discarding the damaged unusable parts. She can't dismiss the feeling of the kyber crystals, their signature in the Force. Even though they aren't calling to her, she feels a connection to them, so she pockets them. Though she does purify the few that have been bled, making them all pure again, and she catches Anakin watching her when she does it. She quickly finishes and is so caught up with the presence of the crystals in the Force that she doesn't realize that Anakin had finished his lightsaber. She looks up as he ignites it though. It gave off a light blue glow in the darkness. Ahsoka chuckled as she saw that he had left a cross-scarred emitters in, making it truly old-fashioned. She commented that it suited him in his overdramatic flair. All he did was grin down at her before he swung it around, getting the feeling of it. They quickly set up camp afterwards, deciding to sleep on the planet since they were there. Stayed there for a couple of days, not only exploring the area, curious as it had apparently been forgotten and basking in the Force with their proximity to the Force Vergence, but they also started dueling with their lightsabers. They had grown used to the object that they were swinging to have weight, so both of them were caught off guard as they dueled with the weightlessness of a lightsaber, and they often put more force into it than they should have. Once they had familiarized themselves with the lightsabers again, though, they packed up the makeshift camp and charted a course back to Resistance in Phoenix Cell. Now it was time for them to begin their fight against Palpatine and the empire he had created, and they were more than ready and motivated to fight him till its conclusion.